The problem itself, I think, is twofold. One, it's the security of your money itself. So if a quantum computer comes out that is powerful enough to essentially break elliptic curves and identify your private key, and this is across most networks, so it doesn't matter if it's Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever, they can steal your money essentially, right? So
Okay.
it's a giant carrot that is hanging. It's juicy and it's inviting people to come try and take it.
So just a
I
pin
think for
on
sorry, go
just
ahead.
a quick pin on that, because when you say that, what I can imagine is that this could be done by only like super mega labs with powerful compute power or whatever. Is that correct or not?
How many times have you heard of those big, large companies getting hacked and having a class action lawsuit? T-Mobile, AT&T, IBM, Facebook.
Yeah,
It doesn't
that's a
matter if
good
they
point.
only have it because someone can get it.
Great point.
And I really don't trust them to have it either, personally, but that's just me.
No, but that's a great point. Okay, so this is not restricted to a few.
Yeah, exactly. It's as soon as it's available. It reminds me of like a scientific study they did on monkeys one time where there were two different continents, and they taught one group of monkeys to wash their fruit, and then this other on a completely disconnected continent started washing theirs too. It's this kind of collective consciousness that I think humanity may have, or whatever, all beings on Earth. But regardless, I think once one company does this, or once that seal breaks, it's going to become common and a lot easier and cheaper to acquire. So the problem just magnifies.
Okay. Okay, so that
Can you
would
remind
be,
me? I apologize. What was the second half of your question?
yeah, the first half. I'm sorry, I just interrupt you, which was like the problem, right? To explain that so that everybody can understand it from first principles, and then what would be the potential solution for the entire industry, right? Like what Bitcoiners, because as you have clarified, and I think this is great. I really appreciate you did that. This is a problem for everyone. It doesn't matter if you own Bitcoin or Ethereum or Solana.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I wanted to add one more piece to the problem part, but I'll get to the second as well. So we talked about really like stealing your money is the quantum problem, right? Getting access to your private key and breaking the whole sovereignty and self custody we have. But secondarily to that, privacy is another, right? So if you are currently opting into shielded Zcash transactions, or you're using Monero, or you're doing X, Y, and Z thing to protect your privacy, it's not only private keys that get broken. Maybe your private key is safe. Maybe you get lucky and you don't get attacked. But the privacy of that entire network, all the anonymity you relied on, is most certainly broken. It doesn't matter if they get access to your wallet or not. Just the Explorer on-chain data from large chain analysis firms with access to a computer like this will be able to break down all that privacy history as well. So I think that's another part of the problem we don't talk about often enough, that it is kind of a sub problem or a subtopic of the quantum resistance issue. So to your other point of how do we solve this, it's extremely difficult. And I think the less ossified your ecosystem is, the better suited you are to solve it. So and when I say this ossified ecosystem, it's the nimbleness. How aligned is your community? How nimble are your developers? How quickly can you make a change that is significant and actually get the entire community or the vast majority of it to buy in and support? Right? Anytime with Bitcoin, we've seen over years that the smallest argument turns into a years long
Yes.
debate and usually dies and never gets implemented. And this is because all the miners have to agree, right? They have to support the hard fork, start running the new node version, all that stuff. So if we take the two big networks, Ethereum and Bitcoin, they're both already trying to solve this. They're already in that process of trying to get this proposal adopted and pushed forward. In Bitcoin, it's called BIP-360, BIP-360. But it's in Ethereum, it's EIP, I think 732. But regardless, they're both future funds. They both essentially, if we look at BIP-360 exactly, it's a draft proposal. So there's no Bitcoin Core implementation. I don't think implementation is actually being worked on. It's just being discussed theoretically or at a governance level for the chain. And it will only protect future outputs of transactions. Because Bitcoin's UTXO based, basically you don't really have this account model. You just have inputs and outputs on every transaction. The future outputs, if BIP-360 are implemented, will be quantum safe and protected. But they do nothing for the existing Bitcoin that's in vulnerable addresses and available on chain. And when you kind of add in the social layer of saying, hey, Satoshi gave up, XYZ, all this Bitcoin, and he doesn't have the keys anymore. No one can move it. That's a vulnerability. It's a risk. We need someone to move it to one of these new, quantum safe wallets. And you get stuck between a rock and a hard place, because if someone has that key and Satoshi really exists and he can move that Bitcoin, then oh shit, we've been lied to for all these years and we don't trust anything anymore. If he
Exactly.
can't, a massive percentage of Bitcoin is vulnerable and at risk to being sold and dumped on the market by some, quantum bad actor.
Yeah, but this is where, the rumors start um creating noise, perhaps, which is like, I've heard people saying, yeah, if something like that were to happen with Satoshi's wallet, before that, you could freeze the funds, or the developers could do that and whatnot. And I'm like, dude, I don't know about that, I don't know if there is any solution. Probably, obviously, they have discussed this in the Bitcoin
Yeah.
community, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of different perspectives on it. And there is potential solutions, because miners are there. There is no dev team. There's no, Bitcoin Core can't really do anything about it. But the miners can agree with whatever Bitcoin Core's solution is, or, the solution they come up with themselves. But you've got to get 51% of Bitcoin miners to agree and implement that. And that in and of itself, it might be as hard as quantum proofing something.
So the quantum problem is a people problem also, at least for Bitcoin. Go ahead, Travis.
Yeah. There's always people problems. We can't get away from those.
Oh yeah, that's inevitable. Perfect. I just wanted to take a moment, and actually, this is probably a good time to talk about the key players in the race for quantum computing. Thank you, Claude. Shout out to Claude for helping me find this information here. So the global leaders right now are U.S. and China. Essentially, U.S. is leading in hardware and NIST standards, while China has already spent or allocated $15.3 billion over 5 years, and currently leads in quantum comms and QKD. We have serious challengers of UK, Germany, France, and Canada. Hey, Canada represent. And they've the highest amount of funds allocated is UK with 4.5 billion. And then strategic players are Australia, India, Japan, South Korea, Netherlands, plus 10 others. But by far, US and China are the key players here. And then it sounds like beyond crypto, there's a threat, like kind of this race and the implications of this race, this geopolitical race, rather, kind of some of the carrots dangling at the end of that, besides crypto, is first mover can decrypt rivals intel, military, financial comms. Quantum plus existing surveillance state equals qualitatively new civil liberties threat. And whoever leads sets global standards and supply chains as well here. So pretty significant implications on whoever gets to this Q day first. And yeah, kind of making things a little bit scary again. So maybe
Yeah, but it's necessarily so, right? Because when you think about
yes,
all those other things, the military, the TradFi systems, and supply chain, it's not just crypto. Someone could easily come and say, well, why would a company put all this effort into breaking Bitcoin? We love Bitcoin. Let's just hope everything's cupcakes and rainbows and people are nice, right?
yeah,
They want to break the military system for purposes of war and geopolitical conflicts. And they just get 25% of the Bitcoin supply as icing on the cake.
yeah, icing on the cake. Exactly, exactly. And especially in a time when I'm going to stop the conversation after this part here, but when we're already on the cusp of potentially World War III, this is something that's like legitimately being spoken about and speculated on. It's a concern. So all the
Yeah.
more reason to be appreciative and grateful for projects like Neptune Privacy here. So I know Quantic, that was kind of the first part of the conversation, kind of taking that step back. Now, shall we take a step forward and actually get into Neptune Privacy here?
Yeah, I think it's a good moment to talk about that now that we have an understanding of what is like the problem really, and what could be like high level solution of this.
Perfect. So let's jump right in. So Neptune Cash was published in 2021, well before quantum was a mainstream crypto conversation. And so can you tell us, Ashton, what did Alan and the original team see that the rest of the industry missed? in terms of the quantum computing.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to start off and be clear for the audience, Alan and Thorkill are the two PhD researchers behind the original white paper that powers Neptune Privacy. But they started a project called Neptune Cash that implemented a lot of their goals. And Neptune Privacy is a fork of that essentially combines their deep academic and rigorous research they did with kind of crypto standards, right? Strong tokenomics, strong emission schedules, things like this that will drive adoption rather than just the cryptography itself. So Neptune Privacy is what we call gentleman's fork of Neptune Cash. There's still a lot of collaboration, a lot of conversation between those Neptune Cash guys, and obviously anyone involved in Neptune Privacy is citing them and giving them their due diligence or due recognition on the work they've done. So yeah, Alan and Thorkill are the original founders of Neptune Cash, and they are PhD cryptographers, right? They're not crypto entrepreneurs that like learned cryptography. These are academic mathematicians at the end of the day. So Alan's previous work on Starks and like post-quantum signatures and zero knowledge proofs all led him to publishing the original Neptune Cash white paper in 2021. So I think what they saw was an entire blockchain industry that was building privacy as like an afterthought instead of, baked in from the core. And this applies to the quantum thread as well. I think a lot of times in Neptune related conversations, privacy and quantum go hand in hand. They are the same problem from much of our perspective.